Hi, I'm Merrill Kazanjian. Today, I'm going to show you a really cool finishing trick by drawing this sweet little old lady. What you are seeing is a short time lapse of me layering color with illustration markers and color pencils. I've discovered that using markers and color pencils is a much faster way to build a foundation for a painting, if you could still call it that. Today, I will add a third step to my process. In less than a minute, I will teach you how to glaze oil paint. Glazing is a very well-known oil painting technique that gives a work of art a more lifelike finish. I'm a mixed media artist now, but the first medium that I learned in my training as an artist was oil painting. Glazing was, by far, my favorite oil painting process, but it would often take me months to reach the point where I could glaze, because of oil paint's slow drying time. This crazy caricature of the little old lady with the gun took me less than an hour to make. Much faster. Now, let me define glazing. Glazing is the act of adding transparent or translucent color to a painting. Water is a good example of transparency because you could almost perfectly see through it, and candle wax is a good example of something that is translucent. Some light can shine through something that is translucent, but only hints of color. You could usually tell if a color is good for glazing by looking at the outside of a paint tube. Most paint companies have a symbol that shows you if a color is good for glazing by putting a box on the outside. If the box is empty or half full, those are glazing colors. If something is full, like the yellow tube here, that means it's totally opaque or you can't see through it. You could download a list of the paints that I use for glazing on my website merrillk.com. Just type in glazing in the search box. One last thing before we start to glaze. I recommend a product from Winsor & Newton called Liquin for glazing. It mixes very well with the wax from the colored pencils. Alright, so I am starting out with the small brush, and you can actually see me use quite a number of brushes. Usually when you apply the paint, you need at least one more brush to smooth it out over the surface. You're going to see me pan back in a minute. There we go. I'm starting to mix a really cool red flesh tone for the bottom of the cheek. I'm putting that in. The brownish glob that you see in the upper right-hand corner is the liquid. And when you put it onto the surface of the color pencil drawing, it's not going to look brown. It looks very clear. So don't be mistaken by that. I'm using a very light touch. There's a close-up. It's almost like what I imagine a makeup brush to be. Very soft, fibers, brush hairs on that brush. And it mixes right in with the colored pencil. Actually, the liquid makes the colored pencil be picked up by the brush. So it goes right into that layer. And I'm trying to soften everything. Like you'll notice with the forehead on top, it's got a little bit too many wrinkles. I mean, she's meant to be an older lady, but the wrinkles don't look natural. And I'm just trying to soften that. I'm going to do the same thing with the hands. I'm going to totally change the hair. I'm going to give the hair a little bit more life. Liquid takes about half an hour to an hour to dry, and if you wanted to add another glaze layer on top, there's no problem with that. In fact, you could use as many glaze layers as you want. I've done as many as 30. Now I'm going into the hair. I'm adding some white highlights. I do not know what possessed me to draw her, but I did. I kind of do it now and figure it out later. So I got a lot of figuring out to do, I suppose. Eee, she looks a little disturbed. I'm using that second brush now. I did a reference sketch, and I'm referring to the sketch. I just left that with markers and pencil, and it's not nearly as detailed. Now I'm mixing some color for the sweater. That's phthalo blue. It's a greenish blue. And I mixed that with the liquid. And what's so cool is you're still going to be able to see the color underneath, especially with the markers, because that doesn't move at all. And the colored pencils, as I mentioned, gets picked up a little bit. Gets picked up a lot if you press really hard. So it really gives you a really cool flexibility that you don't even have when you paint. Because the layer below when you paint is usually just solid. If I was to add another layer on top of this, then I would have had that solid layer because the liquid would solidify it. I'm trying to bring out the tones. I always tell my students, make sure you look at your work from far away, and that's where the tones can really be evident, because that's what draws somebody in to see the work. They see a lot of different tones, they see a lot of different colors, and if the drawing makes sense, then they're going to come over and see it. But it just gives it more shape with the more tones that you have, like that little shadow underneath the hands. Alright, so here's her makeover, the before and after pictures. If you notice the one on the right, it's a lot more smooth. The lines were very choppy on the one on the left, and the liquid and the paint combination, with the glazing, made a big difference, I feel. It makes it look a lot more like skin. Okay, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.